Hi, Jeremy here, Damn Good Doctors Club. In this video, I'm going to be looking at a very common struggle, challenge, growth opportunity, right, for my colleagues, health professionals, health practitioners. And I've gone through this as well. The truth is, we always go through it, right? And the real question here is, how do I get more new patients? How do I get qualified new patients, right? A couple different versions of that type of question. Now, this is really, really important, obviously, because just like any business, right? If you're in business, you need to have people that you're working with that you're helping. And it's not just about money. Of course, money helps. Of course, you've got to have money coming into your business. That's the lifeblood of any business. You need that in order for your business to keep existing. And at the same time, the money is really just a secondary byproduct. It's just a vote that what you're doing has value. It's a sign of value. And what that means is that you're actually helping people. You're helping with transformations. You're helping people reduce the complexity and healing. Okay, so we have different motivations. Some people just want to make a ton of money, which is fine. I don't, fault anybody, their motivations. Some people just want to help everybody, right, and go out and have a mission to change the world, which is also great. Some people have both, which I think is healthy. Why do we have to choose either or? Of course, you should be compensated if you're delivering high value, right? That's part of the deal. That's really what money is. It's not an evil thing. It's just a symbol. It's a recognition that what you're doing has value, that you're helping people in a great way. And I think a lot of us, especially when we're very ambitious and motivated out of goodness, is that we want to help a lot of people in a big way. So getting more new patients, right? No matter why I'm saying this, no matter what your motivation is, if you're looking to make more money or you're looking to impact more lives, either way, or both, you've got to have ways to find new patients, to get qualified new patients. So what I would offer you here is to first be ready to put down some assumptions, right? Like I've had to do. I've had to put down all kinds of little beliefs that I used to hold, and that's part of growth, because the person we are today that has XYZ problem, we will have to grow into a different type of human that doesn't have XYZ problem if we want to solve it, right? So part of that growth means that we have to put down some of our beliefs if they're not serving us. And sometimes we can pick them back up later. Sometimes we can pause them, right? But just be ready to do that. Have a flexible mind. And what I'll share with you, how to get more new patients, right? Okay, so I'll share in this video some concrete steps, because these are the things we go through within Damn Good Doctors Club, where I have a private membership area where we have healthcare practitioners coming in, and we're in a private group and we're talking about these kinds of things. We go into this in detail. I've got an Insights Vault that's full of videos that explain a lot of the principles around this. And I've got a program that's in depth, and I've got mentorship I do with select practitioners where we really take this to the edge, right? But in this video, I'm going to give you something, okay? And we're not going to go through everything here. There's no way. I can't possibly do that, but I will give you something. So in order to do that, we have to set the stage. We have to have the right context. When you're looking at your business, I need new patients is an attraction problem, right? Attracting people. Now, what does that mean in comparison to what? Well, you got to understand the anatomy of your business. Just like when you become a health professional, you start to understand how the body works. Yeah? You have to know the anatomy, the physiology, the pathology. You have to know the different parts and pieces and how they're related and how those relationships can go out of balance, so that when patients come to see you with a problem or a symptom, you're able to mentally track back through your framework and figure out all the moving pieces so that you can go upstream, downstream, wherever you have to go to figure out where's going to be the biggest leverage point. You got to have context, right, to help people heal. Now, what I would suggest, and this was a big one for me when I realized this, is that our practice, our business, is a living organism, right? And it has the same rules that apply to it as the human body. So the better we get, this is so cool, the better we get at our job of being able to analyze complex systems in the context of health, we can take that skill and put it over here and transfer it to analyzing our businesses, our practice, whatever it is. So whether you're brick and mortar, online, both, hybrid, whatever, these become universal principles. So I want to tune that eye up for you, because for me, this was a big game changer when I started to realize this. So we have attraction problems. Now, you might want to write this down, right? Attraction, there's lots of ways to break down a business models and all that. But for simplicity, and something that I've picked up along the way, is a very easy framework. And these are going to be like marketing terms. Okay, it's kind of dry business terms. It's not the most humanizing way to talk about this, but it's very clean and easy in terms of it's the business part of it. Attraction, where people are coming into your world, right? Marketing would be there. That's where you get new patients, right? conversion, that's the business term, but really it's education. It's getting to know each other, right? It's kind of getting to just feel out a relationship. That's conversion. So you have attraction where people come into your world, conversion where they get to find out about you, right? And then you have a sale where they decide that you can help them and you decide that you're willing to take that case, and money is exchanged and value is exchanged, and you start to really get to work on their case, right? And then you have the actual product, which is the fulfillment. So even if you don't have physical products, your service is a product, right? It's the same idea. It's whatever you're doing, right, at that point to deliver value once you've agreed to take on a case, to work with somebody. So you have attraction, conversion, a sale, and the product, right? So we need to be able to zoom out and house this question where it belongs initially and say, okay, this is an attraction problem. No one's been able to tell me how to get new patients, right? No one's given me concrete steps. Well, check this out. Let's go over here to the product part, right? The service, the art of what it is you do. And let's look at the same type of problem, but in that area and what that would look like. And then we'll come back, I promise, right? So this is going to be, I want you to have context. I could give you a 30-second video where I just tell you what to do, but that doesn't set you up for anything long-term. That just fosters dependence on external people just telling you what to do, right? So instead, I'm going to take you on a little bit of a journey. If you're looking at your product fulfillment, most health practitioners, I'm going to use acupuncturists as an example, but I mean, we could be talking about naturopaths, chiropractors, MDs, NDs, functional medicine, whatever. It's the same rules apply, okay? But for acupuncturists, because that's my background, I'm heavily Eastern trained, right? For acupuncturists, you might have special types of acupuncture, right? Special lineages, things you've studied under, things you've trained. And a lot of times in the beginning of learning how to deliver a product, deliver a service, we start with somebody tell me what to do, right? Which means we go to a seminar, we learn from an expert or whatever it is, and they give us a point protocol, point prescription. I remember this from school a lot. They gave point prescriptions. I don't know. I had to memorize all this stuff for exams. Maybe things have changed since then. It was a while ago, but it used to be, probably still is, that you would have standard education and they would say, okay, the patient has insomnia. What are the point prescriptions for that, right? Depending on the patterns. So you're learning these kind of just punch in puzzle piece kind of answers, right? In reality, that's just a place to start. That's what to do, but that's not how to think. Later on, as we evolve our process and we become better at delivering care and delivering our medicine, we start to become more creative and playful with those prescriptions, right? Because it's not just about the points on the paper. Okay, oh, it's this point, it's spleen 9 and lung 5 or whatever. And if you're not an acupuncturist, just ignore the jargon. It doesn't matter. You could, if you're doing functional medicine, you could substitute some supplement protocol or something like that. Oh, we're using binders and we're using liver detox, whatever it is. It's just the what's. It's the little technicals, right? But there's also the how. How do you deliver that care? How do you do it? And does that matter? Of course it matters. It matters greatly. It matters maybe even more than the actual points themselves or the actual technicals themselves, some may argue. So think about this in terms of if you've already invested in yourself to learn the what and the how, or at least the what, of product delivery, meaning delivering your medicine and getting good at these point protocols and that kind of thing, right? It's the same evolution that happens on the other side in attraction. Because people can say, well, here's how you do it. You have to, and I teach this stuff too. I give a lot of hows. Here's how you do it. I'm going to give you some in this video today, right? But I'm going to give a very well thought out and very considered perspective here. I'm not just going to pick one little thing that, will work for everybody. It's more of a process anyway. So you have to understand that if you have a point prescription, right, that those points on paper, you could be needling them all different ways. Right? With acupuncture, you could be using really huge needles. You could be using tiny needles. You could be very fast. You could be very slow. You could be doing a lot of stimulation, barely anything, right? All these different variations will change the way that prescription is delivered. And if you're skilled in delivering your service or your product, you will know how to shift that for different people. You will know how to adapt, right? I used to think that I could learn the one system of Chinese medicine, Eastern medicine, acupuncture, herbs, right, whatever, that would be like the master system that would solve all my patients' problems. And then I could mentally, and this took a lot of mental work to do soul searching on this, basically. But then I was assuming that then I could mentally check out, and that energetic burden would be off of my brain's bandwidth, right? Oh, I can finally rest once I get that holy grail treatment. Doesn't exist, right? And that's actually a blessing, because we actually get our hands in there and we're with people and we're moving with them, right? We're adapting, we're feeling them out, we're getting connected, right? We're not getting disconnected and trying to check out. Now, the same thing for product delivery applies to attraction, right? I used to believe there was one secret way to just get a flood of patients, right? And then, oh, finally I could rest my weary mind and not have to constantly be thinking of new ways to spread the message about what it is I do, right? I was mistaken. It's evolving. It never ends. It never ends. And there are a lot of reasons for that. I'm not going to get into all of them here in this video, but one of them is just shifting context, right? People become savvy to certain things, and just saying, I treat the root of your health condition might not be enough in a marketplace full of everybody else who's saying the same thing on their little Facebook bio or their Instagram bio or their little landing page. We get to the root, right? Great, good, that's a start, right? That used to be revolutionary. Now that's just the bare minimum to sit at the table in terms of actually helping people, right? We have to go farther than that. We have to push through that. So there are a lot of little things like this that need to be taken into account. But the main message I want to get is that there's not just one answer, and it's going to be evolving and dynamic, just like your treatment should be. Right? Now, does that mean that your treatment has to be totally wild and there's no continuity from person to person? No, not at all. There's a balance between universal principles and unique application within treatment, and same thing for attraction. There's a balance between universal principles and unique application. And you have to understand that if you want to get the word out about what you do. So how do I get new patients, right? Well, there's lots of ways to do it, of course. Just like there's lots of points you could use on the human body for acupuncture. There's lots of herbs. What you have to do is start thinking about what kinds of patients you want to attract, right? How you like to work, who you do best with, where do you get the best results? Because we're not just thinking about people coming into your practice, cash coming in, right? It's not just that. It's what happens down the line. What happens when somebody comes into your world and then they do go through your program or your process or whatever it is. Like if you're online, you probably should have a program attached to your work so that you're not repeating yourself all the time, right? It saves you time and it helps the patients because then they can rewatch things and they can really absorb the information. It's important, right? So if you've got a program going, they're going through your program, what kind of results are they getting? And what does that look like for you in terms of long-term, what's your fulfillment like? Okay, because here's another thing to think about. I want to flood my practice. I want a bunch of patients. Okay, great. Let's say you're working telehealth. You're working online and you're doing, 1 hour follow-ups for everybody. And you're seeing, once a week you're doing a follow-up so you can kind of check in on their herbs and see how things are going and tune that up. Well, you better be charging per follow-up a decent amount of money, because that's going to eat up so much time because you're spending that 1 whole hour, right? And this is going to be all out of pocket for the patient. So you got to be thinking about this, because this will, mistakes scale too, right? So if you don't have your processes lined up to where you've got a business model where people can come in and it's actually where you're making your time more efficient without losing the quality of care, right? Again, these are things we talk about, we discuss in depth within our group and especially within the program with the practitioners I'm mentoring. It's a game changer in terms of getting rid of the overwhelm and burnout on the practitioner side in terms of trying to deliver quality care, right? It can be done, it can be leveraged, but you got to be thinking about that because that'll change the kind of people you want to attract upstream, okay? So there's a little bit of context. Now the next bit is your attraction efforts, whatever they are, Facebook post, Instagram, YouTube video, TikTok, right? Whatever it is, those are just vessels to contain your message, right? Whatever the platform, whatever the medium, if you like writing blog posts or email blasts or whatever it is, tweets, those are just vessels to contain your message. What's inside that vessel? What is your message? How much work have you done around that, right? So before we even start making noise, and I know I talk about this a lot especially with practitioner training, is that we've got the whole 2 ears, 1 mouth thing going on, right? Where you listen more than you speak. So before you go making noise on social media or on the internet, do you know what you're going to be saying, right? Have you listened to your market? Have you studied? Have you worked with the people long enough to start to really understand their problems, right? Or not? And this is something that I found it takes an intense amount of dedication and caring. You have to care. You absolutely have to care, because the research part is thankless, right? Nobody pats you on the back after that. You'll spend days doing this. Days. I mean, the way I teach it too, you're looking not only at your patients, your potential patients, but also you're looking at other physicians and what they're doing. And it can be so overwhelming. But you have to start to go through that process so that you know the context outside of your own world. It's not just about you spewing your message right into deaf ears. It's about listening and refining and figuring out what actually matters to the people you're trying to help. Are you making assumptions about what matters to them, right? And talking about that. And in reality, the things that you think matter don't, and it's something else entirely, right? So for example, here's just a quick example. Maybe you've got patients, like I know this very well. I specialize in these complex chronic health conditions. So people come with brain fog, pain, fatigue, right? And maybe in my mind, I think, wow, pain, that's horrible. I want to get people out of pain. And I'm making the assumption we need to focus on the pain first. But in reality, maybe, as I've noticed with the people I've worked with, they actually can tough it out through the pain. It's the fatigue that's really ruining their life, or the brain fog, right? It's these things that are even less tangible. So you don't want to make assumptions about what matters most to the people you're working with. You have to actually find out. You got to start having conversations. And the best thing to do is to get systems around it, right? To make this part of your process. I've got systems like you wouldn't believe, so that I don't forget, right? So that I can always make sure that I'm remembering to no matter how long I've been doing this, no matter how much I think I know, I have to remember to keep listening and keep listening and keep listening, because then I can know better. I can know my market better, right? You have to care to connect like that. So that's another prerequisite before you start typing, right? Or talking or whatever it is, you need to be listening. So what's a concrete way to get new patients? Okay, we're going to get to that. But there's one more thing that I think we should look at first is if you are attracting new patients, where are you attracting them to, right? So if you have, what do you have? Do you have a website? Do you have a Facebook page? Do you have an Instagram, like a YouTube channel? Where's your digital life? And it can be overwhelming to start doing all these things, right? Later, there's a time for that where you might want to become omnipresent, right? There's a time for that. It's not that's not where you start, okay? You don't start there. But you want to pick a platform where the people you help hang out, and maybe you've already got some momentum there and some traction and a bit of a following or whatever, right? Get on that platform and then take a look at how you present yourself on that platform. And look at it not from your own perspective, but get out of your own perspective and look at it as if you were a prospective patient, right? What do they see? Do they see a professional? And it doesn't mean you can't be a human on there. Like, I've got silly things on my social media and stuff like that. It's a little bit personal, but greater than 80-90% of what I put out is down to business in terms of, this is my mission. I help people with complex chronic health conditions. And now I'm starting to become more public about practitioner mentoring. So you'll see more of that, right? I used to keep that kind of in the back cave, right? In the dark. It wasn't something I really broadcast, but I'm finding that the people that I'm working with, their practices are changing radically. And I think it's time to start opening this up to more practitioners. So you'll see that, right? But the point is, you'll see my presence online. It's not people telling me happy birthday. It's not me putting up GoFundMes. It's not just diversions, right? Distractions. It's not previews for movies. It's not anything consumptive like that. It's all about, this is who I help. This is what I do. I know my stuff, right? So I would encourage anybody, especially like practitioners I'm like, go through everything you got out there and start culling it down, because guess what? You're a new person now, right? That stuff you put up before made sense for where you were. If you want to get to a new level, you have to own up to that. You've got to actually start to kill off some of that old identity. And that means going through and pruning heavily your online identity, right? Get a lot of these distractions off so that when somebody does come find you, they don't have to wade through a bunch of trivial stuff, personal stuff, things that don't have anything to do with their problem, because what's most important to them? Their problem and how you can help them, right? Not that it was your birthday. They don't care, right? They don't care. They don't care what you had for dinner, right? So go through with those eyes. Get rid of all that stuff. Clean it up, right? Your website, if you've got a website, go through it with the eyes of a prospective patient? Do they really care about your resume, your CV, how many different teachers you've studied under? Or do they care that you have experience helping people just like them get the results they're hoping to get? Right? We need to leverage our communications. You can pay for ads. You can pay a lot of money for ads you're basically bribing platforms to direct eyeballs at your work, right? Which is good. You should be able to do that. But just know that you can pay as much as you want. But if you don't have a place for them to come where they see a future and they see hope and they realize that you know your stuff and you know how to help them, that you've paid for them to come and they're going to leave just as fast as they got there. You have to have something. So clean it up, right? That's another preliminary step. So you got to have an understanding of the anatomy and physiology of your business. And I did not go anywhere near the depth on this that, it's due, right? This is a summary video. I'm already 20 minutes in. We're going deep, but there's so much more depth. So you have an understanding of the anatomy and physiology of your business. You got to understand that it's the same way you develop your product or your service of going, okay, here's the 1, 2, 3 point protocol. Here's how I do it. And then actually learning how to deliver that in a way that's adaptive, right? And knowing that same process is going on the other side on attraction. Here's how you get new patients, right? Sure, great. But you know what? We got to be able to evolve that. You have to, right? You absolutely have to. So there's that. The other is listening before you talk, because whatever you're doing is going to be a vessel. It's going to be a frame. And what are you putting in that frame, right? Is it a bunch of stuff that's nobody cares about? Or is it something that's very salient where the people who see it go, man, you're in my head. I was compelled, right? I've been drawn in to this. These aren't things I'm making up. This is the things people say to me, like prospective patients. Jeremy, that is spooky. How do you know that about me? Well, because I've helped a ton of people just like you, right? I think you have a future here. I think you have hope here. You want that, right? You can't fake it. You have to just do it. You got to do it. You got to earn it. Got to earn it to have salient messaging. You got to earn it. So we have that. And then we also have clean up, right? Clean up your presentation. You're presenting yourself online. Clean it up. It's not about you. I know this is a paradox. You're presenting yourself, but it's not about you. What you're presenting is a possible future for the people you're trying to help. That's what you're presenting, okay? That's the heuristic you use. That's the rule of thumb to guide what should stay on your social media or on your website, right? So there's all that. So now we get all that set up, plus more. There's so much more, but I want to give you some early wins, right? This might be good. If you get this work done, right, and you're feeling good about it, that's a win. Share that, right? It's important. Once you got that set up, now it's time. There's many, many, many strategies and tactics for finding new patients. But what I'll tell you, you can kind of do a two birds with one stone kind of deal. And you can go to groups on Facebook, right? This is very old school way to do it. It's reliable. It works great. And what you're going to do is you're going to join the groups that have to do with the relevant conditions. So for example, if you treat IBS, right? And that's your specialty. That's your wheelhouse. Search Facebook. Go find all the groups on IBS you can. Join as many of them as you can, right? Get in there. And you go in there to learn. You're not going in there to sell anybody anything. You're going in there to learn. This is part of your market research. You're going in there to listen. And when you start to see, and here's what's crazy. When you go in there, you'll start to see people asking questions that for you, with your training, you're like, whoa, this is a common sense answer. Holy smokes, right? But it's not common sense. It's common sense to you because you forgot how much value you have by being a professional expert. This is good for your mindset too, because we tend to take for granted a lot of the expertise we have. I know I still do it, right? There are things I'm like, dude, this is simple. It's not simple. It's simple because I've grounded out and I've made it simple, right? I've achieved certain levels of understanding of some things where they become simple, right? But you got to remember you didn't always have that. And the people you're trying to help are further behind on that path, and they need you to speed that up for them, right? So just know, going in, you may see things and go, whoa, I could totally answer this. I could help that person. You're going to start getting excited, which is good. That's really good for your morale, right? And start to make notes. What are the kinds of questions people are asking? What matters to them? What kinds of answers are they getting? Is there anything wrong with those answers? Is there anything missing from those answers? Are they good answers? What's right about them? You start thinking about all this stuff. You're going to have a list of talking points. You're going to have a list of things you could make videos on, you could write posts about, because you're going in there and you're listening. And this is just one way to do it, right? Now, the next piece is to start sharing your ideas in those groups. And you can take your time there, right? You don't have to do this all in one day. You might, if you're very ambitious, you want to just get to it, right? You might do this as you're going through, depending on where your software is in terms of understanding, your medicine and all that. You might see some questions and just be like, I'm going to just bang out an answer to this real quick. And you just pop in a comment, pop in a reply, whatever, in these groups, and just start helping, right? Just show up to give. I've got other videos where I'm feeding rabbits, wild rabbits in a field out of my hand, and they're like climbing on my leg and my lap and stuff, right? Because I show up there to give, right? We do this in a way that other mammals intuitively respond with reciprocity because you show up and you care and you bring things that matter, right? So you do that, okay? That's the formula. That's the recipe, right? Listen, find what's important, find what matters to people, and help them. Reduce the complexity from their life. Now, what I'll say, here's a caveat, right? Here's a little tip. When you go into groups, there's a lot of deep psychology at work here, especially with the admins on some of these groups. So you don't want to overstay your welcome, and you don't want to be salesy or pushy whatsoever. So what I would encourage you to do is go in there and never drop a link, never do any kind of call to action. I know this is opposite of what most business coaches say. Like, there are places and times for having calls to action, or I call them call to adventure, because we're actually going on a hero's journey with our patient, right? But that's a whole different deal. I'm going to talk about that elsewhere. I've done plenty of other videos and in-depth trainings on that. Your call to action, you don't need it. You go into a group, right? You say things, valuable things, and what happens magically, magnetically, is the people who are attracted to what you're saying, who see value in what you're saying, they'll click on your picture. They'll go check out your profile, and they'll find you, right? Now, what goes in your profile? Not a bunch of things about movie reviews and what you had for breakfast and how there's a GoFundMe and all this stuff. None of that, right? No political stuff, how you're upset about somebody stole an election or whatever. Who cares? Keep it off of there, right? If you want, create a separate profile that's your personal one, where you can put all this stuff on there and just talk to your 5 friends you went to high school with or whatever it is, right? But when you're representing your business and your work, they're going to click you, they're going to find you. Will they like what they see, right? And then that's where you have your call to action. That's where in your bio, it's not about you in your bio, it's about them. Here's who I help, here's how you get in touch with me. Done, right? The posts on if you're doing Facebook or Instagram, right? The posts that you have are about them. It's about your work. It's about people you've helped. It's maybe testimonials or the way you look at things, right? Something that sets you apart. Market differentiation. This is something I've spent hours discussing within paid programs, right? I go through this in depth, immersion trainings. But the 80-20 on this is that you need to have some kind of market differentiator, something that makes you different than everything they've tried before. Because the people who are coming to see you, and I know this deeply, is that they've tried a ton of stuff. And every time they try and fail, they're getting closer and closer to burnout and hopelessness. Okay, so the people who really need your help oftentimes are some of the most jaded and skeptical people out there, which is totally fine. You have to accept that. You have to meet them where they're at, and you have to help them, and you actually have to show them why what you're doing is different than what they've tried before. And if you can't demonstrate that, then you get what you deserve in that sense. They're not going to pick you. Okay, you've got to elevate not only your skill set, but the way you understand it and articulate it, so that you can make a case for what it is you do and why it's different, right? So there's how you get new patients, right there. If you're working online, then you've got the whole world, right? I'm happy with an international practice. It's amazing. And sometimes people worry about that, like, oh, there's licensing and state laws and all that. There are ways around that. This is stuff we go into within our program. There are legal ways that you can practice anywhere, basically, and do whatever you want, as long as you're being ethical and safe and not doing harm to people. There are ways to get all the red tape and all that stuff out of your way so you can get down to just doing what needs to be done. That exists. That's fine. And you can do it above board without worrying about an agency coming to get you or your license getting taken away or scope of practice or anything like that. And that's important to understand. You have that freedom, right? But even if you're going online, you don't have that dialed in yet. Just stick to people in your own state or whatever you're comfortable with, right? But you will get, it doesn't take much to get international attention when you do this stuff right. And be ready. Be ready. I've had to set up clinics, like local offices that would drop ship herbs and things for me so I could avoid wait times, right? I've had an office in Sweden drop shipping herbs to patients in the Netherlands, in Denmark, Germany, Belgium, right? Because I don't want them to have to wait a month for their herbs to get from America through customs to go see them, right? Herbal pharmacies, formularies in the Netherlands, herbal formulary in Canada, right? Australia. You got to have these things set up, right? If you want to go international. That's a different thing. That's a success problem. Once you get good at this, you're going to get international attention. You're going to have people coming to see you virtually, right? And you want to be able to create an environment for them. But that starts with understanding the anatomy and physiology of your business and what's actually happening here, right? As I went through. Understanding how to listen effectively, having a skill set to back up the promises you're making, right? Of course, I'm assuming that we're at that level. And if not, that's okay, because I've got clinical clarity built into the program and the mentorship, where we take a granular look at basically everything that's going on with your thought process clinically. So no matter what your medicine is, you can organize it in an effective way so that you can have integrity when you take a case, right? Or you know when to refer somebody out. So we have all this stuff. It's set up because I'm walking the same path you are, right? I'm just doing everything I possibly can, looking at every industry I possibly can, taking all the best ideas I can find anywhere, synthesizing them, right? Keeping what works and developing basically a holistic paradigm for developing not only myself as a human, but also my practice. So you can go international if you want. If you're local, if you're brick and mortar, maybe you're going to be doing posts and things like that and just getting people to kind of come to your local clinic. That's great. But I would say there's power to have a hybrid model. There really is. If you want to keep a brick and mortar and an online, but at the very least, you got to get an online presence and an online practice going. This is the future. You don't want to be behind this where it's already saturated. We're at a very exciting time right now, and it's very fun. It's very fun to be doing this. It's right at the front edge. So that's what you do. Now, okay, what do I specifically do, Jeremy? Well, clean up your profile so people have a good place to come and they see what you're about. Have a good call to action on your profile, right? And have a survey, an application, some kind of form so you can find out more about people, because you'll get all kinds of people coming in and you want to be able to start screening people out, because some of them are there for different reasons than you think. Some of them aren't there to really get better. And you need to start to figure out ways to determine and decipher what people are actually up to so that you can filter them. And then the ones that get through are the ones that actually really want to heal, and they will do amazing. They will become whole new people. You can transform somebody's life. You can transform their family's life by helping somebody heal, right? So you want to filter for that. Once you got that, then your other processes are going to follow, right? Depending on how you're doing it. If you're going to have one-on-ones, if you're doing a group thing, right? I've got, of course, my preferences, right? But I'm not going to tell you what to do on that. It's creative. I would consider fulfillment, though, and getting burned out down the road and how you're going to scale it. So there's that, right? Now, what actually goes in the post? What actually goes in the video that I share? Well, I told you, no call to action in a group, right? So this is a group method, basically. This is all you got to do, group method. Share a post, share a video, right? And in that video, you're very simply talking about your observations of what you're seeing on that group, right? Oh, here's a question I see a lot. Here's how I approach it. Here's what's helped me. Here's an insight. Here's a perspective. Here's something counterintuitive, right? Here's the common advice around this question, this topic. Here's what's good about that. Here's what it's missing, right? I hope this helps you. Bye. That's it. And then people will come. You don't have to try to grab them and pull them in, right? People will come. You can, if you want, when people like that post or love that post or comment on that post, you can just add them as friends, which is totally fine, right? But just know that they will be coming. They will come. They will find you. You just have to keep doing it. Just do repetitions. I don't mean repeating the same post. I mean repeating this process, right? I should be clear here. Post again the next day, the next week, whatever it is, and share. Never call to action. Never, hey, I'm taking new patients, right? That doesn't go in a group like that. That's somebody else's group. That's somebody else. You're a guest there. Be respectful. Show up and give. Just show up and give, right? You'll find people start friend requesting you. When they send you a friend request and you don't know who it is, you check out their profile, right? And if you're going to accept the friend request, then you write them back. I'm using Facebook here because we're using Facebook groups, right? You'd write them back in Facebook Messenger and you'd say, hi, whatever their name is, right? Hi, Dana, for example. Hi, Michael, whatever. It's great to meet you. Was there something specific that made you want to reach out? And then listen, right? Yeah, I saw your video. In the chronic fatigue group. I've been dealing with that for a long time. I was just really interested to see what else you have on the subject. Great. Check out my profile. I've got a lot of videos on there. I've got a lot of assets there, the things that'll help you. If you ever want to schedule a consultation, here's the link, right? Easy, done. You can do this without being cheesy, without being sleazy, without being salesy, without being a goon, right? But you have to have integrity. You got to be able to stand behind your work. And there's going to be weak parts. There's always weak parts in this. It's an evolution. It's a transformational evolution with your practice. So you identify the weak parts as you go, right? Play to your strengths as much as you can and build up the weak parts. So how do I get new patients? That's how you do it. Okay, there's one way of many. It doesn't cost you anything. And in fact, it will pay you back because you're investing some time in your market research, which is the foundation, the whole bedrock of this whole thing is knowing who you're talking to and who you're helping, right? Of course, I've got specific systems around this. So if these kinds of conversations are helpful to you, you might consider applying for the Damn Good Doctors Club. We're having these kinds of conversations in our private group. It's all practitioners, very bright people, very warm environment. It's free to join as a guest. I do have paid programs, of course. I've got select mentorships. I'm not cheap to work with. I know my stuff. I care deeply about the people I help, right? These are more long-term working relationships. But in the meantime, you may as well come around, see what you can learn, get a feeling for our culture, ask me anything you want. I'll share my perspective, right? And that's a great opportunity to get to know each other. Because I don't take anybody who applies either. I'm taking this opportunity to get to know some of the practitioners coming in and start to find what kinds of questions are they asking, right? I'm listening with my ears. It's important. It's very important. So you'll find the link for that. If it's something you'd care to apply for, I'll take a very thoughtful look at your application. Please don't wing it. Don't rush it. And in the meantime, let's get to work.